There are 5 major mistakes I see all the time that make vocals sound amateur. Some of them are obvious, but some of them not so much. So that's why I wanted to make this video covering them all in one place. I'm going to pack as much information into this video as possible, showing you not only what the problem is, but explaining why it happens, and most importantly, showing you how to fix it. So let's get started. The first mistake can happen before you even start tracking, and it's just general tracking mistakes that lead to less than ideal vocals. It's not groundbreaking to say that good, clean vocal recordings will result in better mixes, but what exactly is a clean vocal recording? That's what we're going to look at. Here's an example of this vocal where we had 3 different gain settings during tracking. The first one was set too low, the second one was set too high, and the third one was set properly. The problem with recording at too low a level is that when you go to mix and apply compression, you're going to bring up a ton of noise with the vocal. You can hear that little grainy noise in between the lines here.
Across the room feels safe.
Now, even with a very quiet and clean recording signal, you're still going to be picking up noise if you record too low. On the flip side, if you record too loud, you're going to be clipping the preamp. You can actually see in the waveforms that we're actually clipping the preamp before it even got to Pro Tools. And the sound is going to be dirty and distorted as well.
I can feel it in my body, the way you look at me. Our symmetry is killing me. I think I gotta leave.
So obviously recording too soft isn't good, recording too loud isn't good. So what is the right level? Well, if you're looking at your meters when you're setting your preamp, look for around -12 dB. That's where you want your meters to kind of hit. That leaves plenty of headroom in case the vocal gets louder. You're not going to run into clipping, but it also is loud enough to where you're going to be far away from that noise floor and you're going to have a nice, clean recording.
Can you take this off my chest? You're looking like no white space, babe.
So you could see that most of the time we were right around that -12. On a couple of those louder words, we reached up a little bit towards -8, but that's totally okay because we are still very far away from clipping. Now, the other common mistakes with tracking is having plosives in the recording. Plosives are the big puffy sound that happens on a P or B sound. And the solution for that is very simple. Just use a pop filter. Make sure you have a pop filter on your mic, set it about 3 to 6 inches away. Now, the other reason a pop filter is really helpful is that it can help you gauge your distance from the mic so you can keep a consistent, even tone. So if we ask ourselves, what is a clean vocal recording to start with? It's one that doesn't have noise because it was recorded too low or distortion because it was recorded too high. And it's one that just generally sounds natural. If you do have any of these problems, whether it's plosives or it was recorded too soft, the best solution is to re-record it and fix the problem at the source. The result is going to be much better. The second most common mistake I see is actually misusing reverb. The type of reverb you apply matters a lot when it comes to how present or distant your vocal sounds in the mix. So a lot of times I'll hear an amateur mix and it'll sound something like this.
No reason to stop. 12 got a feeling like trees in a month. A lot of people feel like it's no reason for cops. They killing us, gets us a reason for Glocks. Semi-automatic, static, sat amongst the demons and plotted for green and receiving a cheese.
And the question I'll usually get is, why does my vocal sound so distant and muddy? And in this case, it's because the reverb that was chosen is not the right type of reverb for this track. I'll give you a general rule of thumb to follow when picking reverbs. Now, you don't have to follow this, of course, but this can be a good guide when you're choosing which reverb to use. The faster the vocal is, the shorter the reverb needs to be. So in this case, on rap vocals, we need a shorter, tighter reverb to keep the articulation in the vocal and to bring it more forward in the mix. So a hall reverb is not the best choice here. In this case, I would go with something like a room. And this room mode in Xbox Pro is one of my favorites. It's incredibly lifelike and natural sounding. Take a listen as we flip between the reverbs.
No reason to stop. 12 got a feeling like trees in a month. A lot of people feel like it's no reason for cops. They killing us, gets us a reason for Glocks. Semi-automatic, static, sat amongst the demons and plotted for green and receiving a cheese. Planting the seed for money trees. They try to take it, I bet I leave blood on the leaves. She on her knees. Is it the cheddar? I know I'm that nigga. No better like ever. That bread, I bet I get it.
So you could hear as I was flipping to these longer reverbs and then back to the room, as soon as we went to the room, it just locked in place. The vocal just sat perfectly up in the mix. So on this track, we needed a shorter reverb. But just as an example, I'll show you another track where we have a much more sparse vocal that actually needs a longer reverb.
Can you take this off my chest? You're looking like no white space, babe. I wanna misbehave.
So in this case, we have a much longer reverb setup here. If we flipped this one to the room, for example, this vocal would probably sound a little empty.
Can you take this off my chest? You're looking like an old white space. Hey, I wanna misbehave.
So in this case, a shorter, tighter reverb kind of took the vocal and separated it from the track too much. I like it better with a longer reverb here. The track is kind of spacey, and this just helps put the vocal in a similar space. Now, of course, we are using a little bit of verb duck and delay duck, and this just helps keep that vocal up front and clear, even when we're using those big long tails. So all of that said, pick your reverbs very carefully. And one of the reasons I love using Xvox Pro is that we have so many high quality reverbs right here. We can just click through them and hear them in real time. There's tons of different options to choose from, whether you want bright and clear, if you want something rich or dark or colorful, even incredibly lifelike rooms and real spaces. There's just a lot to choose from, so spend time picking the right reverb. The third very common mistake that happens all the time is overprocessing. Basically just using too many plugins in far too drastic a way on a particular track. And the result is almost always unnatural and probably thin and empty sounding. Here's exactly how this problem happens. You start by applying some EQ, maybe some compression, a little de-essing, and maybe even a little reverb. And you take a listen to the vocal in the mix after applying that processing. And then you say, okay, it sounds a little bit thin. I want to add some more body. And so then you bring up another EQ to add in the body.
I wanna feel your clothes, rubbing on my clothes. Come on, girl, let's go. You're the one I chose.
Now, the more processing we keep stacking on this vocal, it's just going to sound more and more unnatural as we go. Because the thin sound of the vocal in this case might have actually been caused by choking it with the compressor rather than carving it out with EQ. So by adding more EQ, you're just bringing up more of this choked compression sound, and it just doesn't have that natural, warm, and full tone that you're looking for. So let me show you a better way to avoid this trap of just over-processing and continually adding more processors to the chain. Instead of constantly adding new processors, try taking processors out and see if that fixes the problem that you're trying to solve. You might notice that removing a compressor or removing an EQ fixed the problem. So that would tell you that that's the processor you need to focus on in order to make it sound better. Now, one of the reasons I like using Xvox Pro so much is that it's so easy to dial in and tweak. All the controls you need are right here. It's just much more intuitive. Instead of having to flip through a bunch of different plugins to find things, you can just see it all right here. So here's how I would dial this vocal in from scratch.
I wanna feel your clothes, rubbing on my clothes. Come on, girl, let's go. You're the one I chose. There ain't too much to say. I wanna see you dance. If you wanna roll with me, this your only chance. And I'm like, oh, girl, you know it. I'm on soon as I walk through the door. I like get my drink to meet me on the dance floor. You shaking all that ass, girl, no hands and all.
So that's already a really great natural sounding vocal. But now if I came back and listened to it and I said, you know what, it's a little bit too bright. Instead of adding another EQ, trying to darken it with another EQ, I could go right back to my chain and say, well, let's see, where is that brightness coming from?
'Cause I want your booty on me. I wanna feel your clothes, rubbing on my clothes.
In this case, it's coming from the tone module. And so now I can tweak this here with either pulling back the Air Plus slider, maybe cutting the highs.
'Cause I want your booty on me. I wanna feel your clothes, rubbing on my clothes. Come on, girl, let's go.
So you can see how much easier it is to tweak when you're using this type of workflow. No matter what plugins you're using, the more streamlined your chain is, the more able you are to go in and easily tweak things and dial them back or push them harder, the better results you're going to have getting the sound you want. The fourth most common mistake I see is not editing your vocals. This one is easy. Almost no professional vocal that you've ever heard has gone to final mix without a good, thorough editing. It might might be a little tedious to do, but it's very easy. Simply go through, cut out all the silence where there might be little noises hidden. If you notice any mouth clicks or pops, cut those out as well. Make sure you place little tiny fades before and after any of the vocals. And if you have two regions butting up against each other, place a little crossfade between them just to eliminate any clicks and pops. And lastly, just listen to it and fix any problems. A problem might be, oh, the vocalist came in a little early on this section. So instead of leaving it that way, let's just nudge it back slightly so they're more on beat. Give your tracks a good editing before you get to mixing. So that way, when you get there, you can just focus on making it sound the best possible. You're not worried about fixing a bunch of problems and clicks and pops. The fifth mistake I see a lot is trying to fit your vocal into a busy mix and expecting it to sound clear with the perfect amount of processing. We recently made a video on this exact topic. I'll link it in the description below. I would definitely recommend checking it out because it goes into a lot more detail, but I'll give you a quick overview. Instead of trying to fit your vocal into a crowded mix, think of it like you're building the perfect vocal tone and then build the rest of the mix around it. So start by processing your vocal and getting the perfect tone, and then bring up the drums, bring up the bass, and build the rest of the track around the vocal. And what you will find is that you'll end up naturally leaving the perfect hole in the mix for the vocal to sit because you're actually building it specifically for that vocal to sit in the mix. So again, definitely check out the video linked in the description if you want to learn more about this. We go into a lot more detail on exactly how to do this and show you all the steps in that video. So those are the 5 most common mistakes I see all the time that result in amateur sounding vocal mixes. To recap, the first is general tracking mistakes. Make sure you start with good, clean vocals. The second is misusing reverb. Make sure you're picking the best reverb for each track, giving it the right amount of depth, and making sure it doesn't get lost in the mix. The third common mistake is just over-processing, continually stacking more and more processors, trying to fix problems that were probably created with earlier processors in the chain. Try using a more streamlined approach so that you can actually tweak the chain and fix it at the source rather than continually stacking more processors. You're going to get a much more natural and professional sounding vocal that way. The fourth is just not editing your vocals. Make sure you're always doing a good edit on your vocals. And the fifth is trying to stuff a vocal into an already overcrowded mix. Make sure you're leaving room for the vocal in the mix. And if you want to try a new technique that can help you do this even more effectively, check out the video in the description. It'll give you a step-by-step guide for that. If you found this video helpful, let us know in the comments, give it a like, and subscribe for more tutorials like this. And as always, happy mixing.